few days ago, I made a video where I talked about who I thought that the Arkham Knight should have been, or at least could have been. I came up with a few ideas. Specifically, I said that Prometheus as a shout out, and I said that Anarchy would probably have been the best pick. However, there are some outside opinions that you guys have given me. You guys have given me some feedback in the comments. So today, I wanted to go through a few of these comments. I got 5 here that I'm going to read out to you, and I'm going to give my overall thoughts and your guys' opinions. So if you guys enjoyed this type of video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and if you want me to react to more comments, let me know down in the comments below. So without wasting too much of your time, let's get reading. The first comment comes to us from Adam2361, and he says, disagree. Most people don't know him or even played the side mission in Origins. Also, how would he have known so much about Batman as Jason does? I feel like Ra's or Talia al Ghul would have been better picks. This would explain how they know so much about Batman and their hatred for him. Also, if it was Ra's evacuating the city and gassing all the criminals with the cloudburst, could have been his second attempt at Protocol 10. Just would have to remove the Knight's use of the guns. I can see your point here and what you're saying. So the first thing I want to point out, Talia al Ghul is actually dead, right? She died in Batman Arkham City. I guess you can argue the Lazarus Pit, but I don't think that would have been utilized here in this case, seeing as she wasn't in that DLC, the Season of Infamy one in the Batman Arkham Knight. But I wouldn't say that most people didn't play the side mission. Well, actually, I don't know the stats on that one, but I can see what you mean by a lot of people wouldn't have played that side mission, and they might not have known who Anarchy was, but that's all the more reason for you to want to go back to play that game, to play even that specific side mission, or play Batman Arkham Origins, because that game did get overlooked a lot. But I understand what you mean by Ra's al Ghul wanting to do the whole Protocol 10 reboot, essentially, having his second go at it. I can see the point, but the thing that I'm also going to push back on a little bit is it doesn't really matter if the Arkham Knight knows a lot about Batman, specifically his identity. He just needs to know how Batman operates. He just needs to know, what does Batman do in this type of situation with this many thugs, or what does he do with armed thugs. He doesn't have to know Batman's identity in order for the Arkham Knight to work. This next comment is pretty long, so I was just getting your popcorn ready. But this comment comes to us from ComicFan1324. And he says, this is an idea that I had that would have made Arkham a 100% character and meant that he wouldn't have to take away too much focus from Scarecrow. Have the Arkham Knight be the mysterious figure leading Scarecrow's militia, and every time we fight him, his tactics and fighting style seems to change. One time, he'll be a martial arts master. Another time, he'll be a bad fighter, but a brilliant stealth tactician. And another time, he relies on advanced technology the militia has rather than skill in combat. The whole time you left wondering how could one guy change so frequently over the course of the night. And that's exactly it. He isn't. It's revealed that the Arkham Knight is actually a bunch of Professor Crane's test subjects whom he used to fine-tune his brilliant batch of fear toxin. The few survivors of this experiment were then subjected to the toxin and forced to fight for their lives against other unwitting subjects dressed as Batman. The few patients who survived had their psyche broken and replaced with an unrelenting hate for Batman, the hero they believed to hurt them. Leading up to the final encounter with Scarecrow, you have to take down all 3 versions of the Arkham Knight in a boss rush that will test your limits in all forms of combat, whether it's hand-to-hand, predator, or tank. This way, Arkham Knight is still an original character and plays a major role in the story, but this is all the result of Scarecrow. Everything they do is by Crane's design. As a side note, I think it should be established that these 3 knights are all ex-military, explaining their knowledge in various different forms of combat, which each of them have in their own style of animations and dialogue to reflect whatever their talent is. The martial artist move however you expect martial arts experts to. He moves with meaning and precision. The Predator strategist would be switching between slow and methodical movement or a speedy sprint depending on the situation. All the while he would randomly look over his shoulder and check around corners more frequently than your average henchman. This means it would be far harder to perform standard takedowns on him. As such, you'd have to get creative with the environment. And of course, for the technological expert that relies way too much on fancy guns and tanks, so when it comes to actually time to throw hands, you would basically have the same basic fighting style as any other enemy. Let me just start this off by saying, I love this idea, because then it kind of keeps the center of attention on Crane in terms of the fact that he's still running the show. He's still running this entire operation from behind the scenes, right? Because the problem was in Arkham Knight was that even though Scarecrow was the main villain and meant to be the main villain, and he has this sidekick of this new character, Scarecrow pretty much got pushed to the back because people wanted to know who the Arkham Knight was. Now, in response to your actual comment here, I actually do love the idea of having like 3 different styles of henchmen or 3 different styles of Arkham Knight boss, whatever you want to call it. I do think it's a really good idea because then it can utilize all 3 types of combat used in this game: hand-to-hand combat, stealth combat, tank combat. And I know a lot of people don't like the tank combat, but if it's incorporated properly, I do think that it can be good. I just think the way it was utilized wasn't. However, I do really, really love this idea from top to bottom because, like I said, it still keeps the attention on Scarecrow. It utilizes all forms of combat, and the Arkham Knight isn't just like someone who's kind of predictable. Like, Arkham Knight, even if you didn't watch the spoiler trailers, kind of made it predictable that it could very well be Jason Todd, considering the fact that he was kept being highlighted throughout the course of the Panessa Studio scenes. So I love everything about this. Love it. The next comment comes to us from Sterling Morning Star, and he says, the Arkham Knight shouldn't have been a character, it should have been a title. Prometheus should have had the title of Arkham Knight, fighting all that Batman the Gotham represents. I like this idea too, because when you think about the title Batman Arkham Knight, Batman is the Dark Knight, and he protects Arkham. So therefore, he could be the Arkham Knight in it of himself. Meanwhile, he protects Gotham from Prometheus. I do like this idea. I can absolutely get on board with this. And I do think that Prometheus should have been the main villain in Batman Arkham Knight. Obviously, I've been kind of riding him for a little bit now. I've been kind of on his thing for a bit, that Prometheus is just... I think he's just such an interesting character to utilize. I think we have a lot of missed potential here, unfortunately. Especially considering the fact he's never been in a game. He's never even been in a movie. He's a character that gets overlooked a lot because people like me, who don't really read comics at all, so we wouldn't know characters like this, right? But he was in the Arkham Asylum bios, and I think that's how any sort of Batman Arkham gamer would have found out about him. And I just think that Prometheus has a lot of potential that I just wish had been utilized tonight. But yes, I can absolutely get behind your comment here. The next comment comes to us from the Redhead Revolution 4156. Prometheus is an underrated villain, in quotations. Looks at Cry for Justice, one of the worst comic book miniseries ever written, where the writer did everything humanly possible to wank the shit out of Prometheus, winning fights he had no right winning just because he's reverse Batman, and probably made the most boring character of Batman's Rogues Gallery as a result. Yeah, I can't really think of why they wouldn't want to use such an obviously incredible character like him. Well, first of all, how often do you see a main protagonist in anything? Video games, movies, comic books, TV shows, you name it. How often do you see main characters winning fights that they really should not be winning, that they had no business winning? It happens literally everywhere. You could probably think of 1,000 examples off the top of your head, right? So that's first off. Second of all, I would still maintain that he's an underrated villain because he is the reverse Batman. That's what makes him so interesting. Just because one person who wrote one bad comic didn't do the best job of representing Prometheus doesn't necessarily mean that he cannot be used if written and used in the correct way. That's what I personally think. It's the same thing with, like, the tank combat in Arkham Knight. It's not very great, but and it could have been better, absolutely, or better utilized. However, if it was utilized better, or written better, or fitted better into the story in certain aspects, then people would get behind it more. Same thing with just the Batmobile in general. So I do think that he could absolutely be utilized properly, and I think that you're kind of cherry-picking specific points here to try to make Prometheus seem like a really bad villain option. And the last comment comes from some Dungeon Meister 500. He says, "You're missing the point, my guy. The problem isn't the lack of emotional connection. It was the trailers and marketing of the game itself promoting the Arkham Knight as this new mystery villain when it was just a Jason Todd / Red Hood story we already know. If the game is called Arkham Sun or something made it clear it was Red Hood from the beginning, then it would have been great." Well, no, it wouldn't have been great, because then we would have just known that the Arkham Knight was Jason Todd this whole time. The whole point of the Arkham Knight is that he has this mysterious, who is this guy, we really want to find out who he is, type villain. Yes, he is a new character. There's never been another story where the Arkham Knight has been featured in that. He was literally a brand new character in and of himself for that game. Even though it was just Red Hood the entire time, I understand the whole Robin to Red Hood type transition thing that's very common. However, the Arkham Knight himself as a character has never been utilized in any other media, first of all. But also, when I say the lack of emotional connection, I'm just talking about us as the overall player. And I'm very well aware that the trailers and marketing didn't do itself any favors in the lead up to this game, right? Like, let's just be honest. The marketing, the trailers, it could have been a lot better, not basically spoiling the fact that it was Jason Todd. However, like, I can concede that point. However, that doesn't change the fact that it being Jason Todd just doesn't do us any good because we hadn't seen him throughout the course of the entire franchise up until this game. So it essentially kind of just made it pointless. Hey guys, this will be responding to your comments on that video. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you guys want me to keep doing videos like this where I just respond to your comment ideas, make a whole video out of it, let me know down in the comments below because this is actually a lot of fun to make. I actually had a lot of joy doing this. I like coming back to the fans and reading what you guys have to say, whether it's good or bad. You guys can absolutely go ham on me in the comments. It doesn't really matter to me. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. You can absolutely go nuts on me if you want to. But I want to just thank you guys so much for watching. I want to thank you guys for everything. Because without you guys, I really don't have much to work with here on this channel. I wouldn't be here still if I didn't have you guys. So I want to thank you each and every time that I get a chance to make videos thanks to you. So thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.